That's good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the, what month is it? April. Boston Amazon Sellers Meetup, sponsored and curated, and mainly totally loved by Chris McCabe of E-commerce Chris. We're joined by Leah McHugh, who works with Chris, and we have and I'm Liz.
And who are you?
I'm Liz Downing. I'm the e-commerce marketing manager at Takeometrics, and I'm co-host. And we've got my good friend, Becky Trowbridge here from Ecom Engine. Becky and I go way back, and she is my, absolutely one of my best people, one of my best friends in real life too. But she's also an expert on Amazon reviews, Amazon review policy, how to get more reviews. So Becky, say hi.
Hi.
So Becky's going to give a presentation. Let's wait until she's done, and then let's start all of your questions. So I encourage you, as soon as Becky's done, to take yourself off mute, put on your camera if you feel like it. Why not? Grab a beverage, and let's just dive in and learn what Becky has to tell us.
All right, and be prepared to go on the spot, because I might pull both of you in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're here to talk about Amazon reviews, and also not risking your seller account. I know a lot of things have changed recently, so just to recap kind of what's happened in the last 6 months or so. In December, Amazon stopped review commenting. The early reviewer program closed. Amazon communication guidelines were updated in November, and then we have these ratings. So kind of wanted to touch on all of those, so that just gives you an idea of what we'll talk about, and then we'll get into how to request reviews without violating any kind of policies. So we all know reviews are important. People look at reviews when they're deciding what to buy. Reviews help increase your organic search rankings. They help you measure customer satisfaction. They give you ideas for improving your products, help you build your brand. There's a lot of value for reviews, and that's obviously why we all want to get more of them. However, it's a little bit harder now that just one of the tools from the toolbox has been removed with the closure of the early reviewer program. So first, I wanted to talk about review commenting, because I'm actually surprised that I haven't seen more feedback about this closing. I talked to Shannon Roddy at Marketplace Seller Courses about this a lot when it first happened. And he and I both kind of thought, Amazon didn't have a good way for buyers to know that a seller had commented on a review. So it wasn't really a two-way communication. However, I think for brands, it's really important to have the ability to correct any kind of reviews that are misleading, and at least try to offer customer support if you have someone that's leaving a negative review because they were upset about something that broke, or, it's another avenue to try to talk to them. And it also just shows that brands are paying attention. I know as a buyer, I look at negative reviews more than I look at positive reviews, actually. And I would always notice if a brand had responded to the negative reviews. And a lot of times they're correcting misconceptions, or they're saying, hey, we updated that feature. I've talked to a lot of sellers. Actually, Liz and I did a webinar back in, I think, January. And we had a seller who asked about upvotes. And he said that he was having issues with his listing having upvotes, that he had a negative review that was getting all these upvotes, and he was no longer able to correct the person that had left the review didn't really understand how to use this product. And so they caused damage that wouldn't have been done if they'd used the product correctly. So I do think it's, a real issue. And I'm hoping that, especially for brand registered sellers, that there will be some kind of replacement for this, or some way for sellers to communicate with buyers. So now what you can do is really just monitor your reviews, pay attention, see what's, is something showing up as a trend that needs to be resolved, and report abusive reviews. Make sure you're answering those customer questions, and just do your best to keep delighting your customers, which is what we're all trying to do every day. Then on to the early reviewer program. We saw mixed results with this. I talked to some sellers that were very, very upset that it had closed, and others that kind of shrugged and said, well, I didn't see many results, or hey, I had to pay to do that and didn't really think it was worth it. Amazon, in their announcement when they closed it, said that it was easier for buyers to leave reviews now that they have the one-tap rating technology, and that the global review sharing has made it easier to get started in a new marketplace. So that's when, it shows highlighted international reviews. So if you start listing in the UK and you're a US seller, it will show reviews from your US listing on your UK listing. So I think that's true, but like I said, it is one item for your toolbox of safe ways to request reviews that is no longer there.
Well, and people have been asking for the international like crossover thing for forever, and it took a long time to get it, and I think it's still not perfect, but that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
because those are different marketplaces.
Yeah,
same ASIN, different marketplaces, but still.
And it still doesn't impact your BSR or your feedback. It's it's a little frustrating, but it's something when you're getting started. So really your other options here are requesting reviews, which we'll get into a little bit later. Amazon Vine, which is currently free. The last I checked, it's free to enroll whether you're a vendor or a seller. So it's kind of one of those, why not give it a shot if you never have? It might
Gwen
be worth
actually
trying.
commented though that Vine's not open to FBM, only
Really?
FBA. So
Okay.
that's actually good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew it was brand registered only and vendors, but I didn't know FBM was not included. So that is good to know.
When you've got a food product or something else that you want to do great packaging on, that's a bummer.
Yeah. And then, you can request reviews in product inserts. I recommend that people be very, very careful with this. I see product inserts that are violating TOS literally every time I order something from Amazon. Don't go that route. Definitely make sure you're following all of Amazon's guidelines for communicating with buyers, no matter how you're communicating with them. And then, there are other options to try, like you could try partnering with influencers. You could try building your own list off of Amazon. So there are definitely other ways to get reviews, but I think that it's really important to consistently be trying to get reviews and not just say, oh, well, I have 100 reviews and now I'm done. Because recency and relevancy of reviews does matter to the search algorithm, and it also matters to buyers. Definitely want to keep an eye on that.
Can I make one crack about the product insert stuff?
Please.
Because I'm one of those people now, any friends or family who get those inserts, they show them to me in screenshots. Sellers buying from each other who are planning to report them for reviews of use show them to me in screenshots, and they're all just floating around in my head in this big giant pile of product inserts. And I feel like many of us have talked for so long about how dangerous that is. But unfortunately, I'm still hearing from people who said, well, I hired a service to do this for me. You can't just go to Amazon and say, well, I passed the buck to somebody else and they were the ones who put the insert in there. Like, I didn't even read it, or I read it, but I thought it was okay based on my reading of the policy page. Not to slow your roll, but I haven't seen enough people who are new or launching a new product understand that you can't just say, well, that was the marketing company, that wasn't me. It's like, you're always the one responsible for who you hire for your marketing strategy. So you can't just be like, we outsourced our marketing strategy, so that wasn't us. To Amazon, it was you.
And there are so many cool things you can do with inserts. That I just did a webinar with Norm Farrar about driving traffic to your listings from outside Amazon. And there are so many cool things you can do with your inserts that if you do those things on your inserts, you can't also ask for a review. So you kind of have to pick and choose. It's either like please leave a review and that's it. Not leave a review if you're happy, or please leave a positive review, or my children will starve if you don't leave me a review.
Or leave an honest review, but here's an incentive.
Right.
Right.
Leave a review
Yeah,
and here's a 20% off coupon that's completely unrelated to the review, but it's on the same
Yeah.
piece of paper, you know.
That's the kind of thing
yeah.
I'm talking about. The honest review verbiage and all of that is so old.
I've got a
Mhm.
couple around here that are
Yeah. What scares me is that I mean, sellers, I understand, probably get that they're on the hook for whatever happens on their account. But companies, what bothers me is companies are still promoting these ancient tactics that haven't worked. I mean, they're high risk, and are they even effective anymore?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I saw on a reputable website in the industry this morning that someone else in the industry had written an article about product inserts, and they had an example of a best practice that said, here's a coupon code. By the way, please leave us a review. And I was like, that's that is like
Yeah.
violating policy 101. You never ask for a review and offer an incentive in the same message.
Right.
Like, yeah. So I agree with what you're saying, Chris. Also, I've noticed Amazon has really pushed that language in the guidelines more and more. Like in our space, they're saying, you know, if you're using third-party software, we don't care. It's really up to you.
Yeah.
How you're using that software is really what matters. It's not the software's problem if you're violating policies.
Right.
So I guess jumping back in here. So I'm sure you've all seen more and more ratings on Amazon. We've noticed that since the request a review button was debuted in 2019, they introduced this one tap technology. So that's basically what this is showing here. You now have the ability as a buyer to either just click on the star rating, or you can come down here and add more information. And then Amazon's kind of aggregating all of that into this ratings instead of reviews. And I didn't include a screenshot here or anything, but we did recently add this to feedback 5. So we're actually bringing in ratings now so that you can distinguish between written reviews and ratings to get an idea of what's actually going on with, because we saw that people were sending requests and they were getting ratings, but they weren't necessarily getting written reviews. And they were like, hey, is this working? And we were like, well, yeah, but we wanted a way to show that.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we've seen, there doesn't seem to be a difference in the way that Amazon looks at a written review versus just a plain rating, if they're verified. I think
Not
maybe
yet.
That's the big
Right.
data frontier, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
The last frontier
That's not the
on
last.
on review data. Well,
Are you kidding?
second to last. Yeah.
Yeah. So question we get a lot is, can I still use buyer seller messaging? And this is kind of related to the communication guidelines updates that I mentioned that happened last November. So yes, you can. Amazon says that you can request reviews and feedback. They do give you a lot of information about what you can and can't do. There are definitely pros and cons to sending your own messages through buyer seller messaging. I know a lot of brands really like that ability to customize, and a lot of brands have success stories of just really tailoring a message and resonating with their customers. But on the other hand, the seller is responsible for the message content. And if they're violating guidelines, they can get restricted from sending buyer seller messages. And before the request a review button was available, we saw a lot of these messaging restrictions start to come through. So it is something that Amazon has cracked down on more and more. And I know, Chris, you and I chatted recently. You said that you're seeing more and more review violations coming through. So they're paying attention.
Suspensions were low, which surprised me because after the first of the year, sometimes historically, that's when Amazon's addressed things that they were putting off throughout Q4 or peak holiday. But they stayed low into the year, and it's only recently that I've seen an uptick. So I don't know what that means exactly, but we are seeing more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's partially because people are buying from competitors and finding that the chat bots or the messaging that they get in a sequence is violating, or it's the inserts, like we said, or it's something else that's just like an easy layup. All they have to do is do a screenshot. And sellers are better at reporting abuse now. There's more places to report it. And I heard there's 3 times as many in terms of headcount of investigators. There's 3 times as many investigators assigned to preventing reviews abuse now than this time last year. So that means something.
Yeah.
Triple the people. So, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, one thing that changed when the communication guidelines changed is that Amazon now wants you to send your request within 30 days of order completion. And you need to include the order ID, and the message has to be in the buyer's language of preference. So that's something, if you're using buyer-seller messaging, you can either use a translated template or you can get your own translation of a template. If you're using the request or review button, that's actually translated automatically for you. Sorry, did we have a question come through, Liz? I can't really keep track of chat. I saw it pop up.
Oh, it's regarding something I said a moment ago. So should I answer now or?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. It's
I don't want to slow your roll of pausing.
No.
Interrupting.
She's used to me interrupting her.
We jump in and out. It's fine.
Are the I mean, this is a quick answer because I don't have 100% solid answer. Chris, are those investigators monitoring the Facebook groups? That has been a large source of reviews abuse. That's a yes and no answer.
It's a
yes,
great question, though.
It's an excellent question. They are. Part of it's because the media has been, reporters have run down some of these fake review schemes and gone into those Facebook groups and found them themselves and posted screenshots or links to the groups, which of course then go flying down. That's one reason that they're watching Facebook more. Also, sellers reporting competitors who are breaking the rules, who are using messaging sequences that lead you back to a Facebook group or a Facebook page, naturally leads an investigator who's pulling on the thread of that sweater in the direction of Facebook, right? They start figuring out what the groups are. And then thirdly, and lastly, when you're suspended for reviews abuse, one of the fields that Amazon forces you to fill out is what groups are you using? And that naturally lends itself to Facebook. They don't necessarily want to say, what have you been doing on Facebook? But in the course of people wanting to get reinstated, they know they have to come to Papa and give that information if they want a better chance of reinstatement. So what do? Links to all these services and groups. Why do they do that? Amazon wants to chase those people away from what they're doing. And down the road, maybe sue some of them. If they're faking reviews, that's a consumer issue beyond just Amazon policy, right? Fraudulent reviews are also considered illegal, and that's why the FTC is interested. So Amazon doesn't like that the FTC is interested in their reviews abuse. So hope that answers.
So this was just talking about messages that you're not supposed to send. So Amazon really seems to want to keep the communication very streamlined. You were never allowed to send marketing or promotional messaging. You were never allowed to send coupons, never supposed to ask for positive reviews. The request for removal or update of an existing product review, that's also something you can do. And then repeating requests, like sending buyers multiple requests for a review, they definitely don't want to see that happening. Chris, you're making a face. Have you seen a lot coming through with that? Or is it difficult to say?
The reason we don't have to go down this rabbit hole of proactive messaging bans, but the reason the proactive messaging ban came about was because people like VP level or even S-team executives were looking at buyer complaints about getting thousands of messages. I'm just talking about the quantity. If you're ever looking for somebody to blame that this whole purge of proactive messaging came up, it's from sellers who were drowning buyers in constant reminders. And we send one after 7 days, then we do another one after 21 days, then we do 28 days.
That's been gone for a long time.
I know, but that's the quantities of messages ticking off buyers, and how the buyers actually got that high in the company with their complaints, I don't know. But there's a famous buyer who complained about 15,000 messages. The quantity was 15,000. I don't know over what time period, maybe a month, maybe a week. I don't know.
From one seller?
No, I mean, probably not from one seller, but they got 15,000 review requests or other messages over the course of a, let's say, short period of time. And that information found its way into a high level executive meeting at Amazon, S team, or maybe a cut below S team. But the bottom line was, it might have been like Jeff Wilke. He's gone now, but I think Jeff Wilke saw it and was angry about it and delegated down to other Amazonians. Why am I getting messages from buyers saying they're drowning in this stuff? What was the upshot of that? Was the proactive messaging ban for those types of sellers. So, and I don't think that I scowled because I don't think that really needed to happen. That created a problem where there didn't have to be one.
So talking about what's not allowed, you want to make sure that your message is compliant with web content accessibility guidelines. We've seen recently, it seems like the Amazon message bots are paying more attention to things like line height and some of the coding type stuff, some of the fonts in more than 3 sizes and things like that. So even though this was announced in November, it seems like they're slowly getting more strict about some of these things. So you're not supposed to include external links unless they're secure working links that go to Amazon or they're necessary for order completion. And kind of the big takeaway here is you never want to try to divert people from Amazon. I don't know why sellers are still trying to do that. It's not a good idea. And you don't want to use, any sensitive content or images that aren't related to your brand or company. You can't include your website URL in your logo. I know that's a big one that some sellers had to kind of redesign their logos around. The emojis and GIFs, for some people that was a way to try to get more open rates or to try to make their message more relatable. I certainly get plenty of marketing emails that use both. But I think Amazon just kind of wants to streamline and make everything look consistent more across the board. So then we get into the request to review button, which you can access from the order details page, and you can just go in Seller Central and click it for every single order, or you can automate it. The request to review button is a completely different messaging system from buyer seller messaging. So if you've received messaging restrictions in the past, or if you're just kind of like, I don't really know what to say in my request, I want to send something, I want to know that it will work. We've seen a lot of sellers have really good success with this. I think it's partially because the message comes from Amazon. And I think a lot of times when I get messages from third-party sellers, their name will be in all caps, or there will be kind of inconsistencies. And I definitely know and trust Amazon in my inbox. So I think that there's something to that when it comes to the open rates. And we've certainly seen that in the review rates that come about as a result of sending this message. So you can see over here what the message looks like. It does ask for both a review and seller feedback, and it includes an image of your product, which, by the way, is something that you're no longer supposed to put in your email. Amazon does that for you now, so that's something to know.
But they don't put it in buyer seller messaging. Just no images are allowed at all, right?
They do.
They do?
It's kind of at the top. Yeah. It's strange.
So as a consumer, you can see the difference between the method that the seller is using. If it's at the top, then
really
it's a buyer seller messaging message. But if it's in the middle, it's a request to review message.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
are you getting reports from sellers saying that their buyers are saying they're receiving multiple request to review requests from Amazon? Because I got 4 on the same order, like 7 orders in a row.
It's very weird.
Oh.
Because Amazon should.
Because I've been buying on Amazon like crazy lately. I just got a freezer for, jam and stuff, or not jam.
I did see a referral fee discount for appliances, so they're pushing large appliances. No, that's really interesting because Amazon is actually sending the message, so they should not send it multiple times. Sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
Oh, I keep telling people about the changes that were clarified, if not announced, on November 6th. Have you had a lot of conversations about what happened after November, what happened before November? Do you see sellers aware that there were changes late last year or in Q4, or were some people so busy with Q4 that they didn't notice that November was the update, and then they fell into 2021 wondering what the, but it was 2 months in already. Did you get any of that because of when they changed it?
I think so.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of what we're doing is still just very basic education about policies. I think that there are so many policies and they're in so many different places, especially when you talk about something like product reviews. You've got 3 or 4 main pages within Seller Central, and I think some sellers are hyper aware of it and some are not. Communication guidelines, it was funny because it seems like we were seeing more restrictions before they went into effect, and then it kind of slowed down in towards the end of Q4, I would say. And then, like I said, here recently, we've noticed it seems like the bots are kind of back. So I don't know if there was kind of a brief lull because it was Q4 and everything was kind of crazy at the fulfillment centers, and maybe Amazon decided to lay off the bots for a little bit. But
sometimes they're in the process of rolling out a new tool or tweaking something, and it's like an engineering problem at that point. So it's not so much changing an SOP or retraining investigators, or it's both. And that means just more delays, more time before it can be fully implemented, rolled out.
Sam popped in the chat something interesting that I am curious about too. And what Sam said was no customized buyer seller messaging allowed with FBA, I think. And Sam, if you're willing to unmute yourself, I'm wondering why you say that, because I heard something on Tuesday that my Southern roots are coming out obviously on Tuesday. I heard something Tuesday.
I understood what you said.
That echoes that. So Sam, what's up with that?
Actually have tried to write the customized message to my sellers. Like, just can't find anywhere that I can customize the message. There is very limited options in the backend.
Oh, they're hiding buyer seller messaging. It's not where it used to be anymore. And actually Becky's giving a free trial of Feedback 5 at the end of her presentation, and that kind of hooks up with your API and it finds it for you. I would try that, because you absolutely now can send proactive messaging if you're an FBA seller through buyer seller messaging, but they did make it harder to find. Sorry, Becky. I just took that one.
No, that's okay.
They've also, when you do find it, they've got, depending upon where you are in the order process and what's going on, they've got like 6 options now, and most of them are grayed out most of the time, so that you can't really communicate with that buyer anymore. And it becomes really frustrating when you're trying to deal with the buyer issue. It's really bad right now, I would say, for trying to just have that communication process. I mean, sometimes you can, and you get a little box in the middle of their message, but sometimes they don't give you any, like, it's like refund the customer and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's also a struggle. One question that I get a lot that I don't really know how to answer is people who want to be proactive about customer service and they want to reach out, but there's not really a great way to do that a lot of times with buyer seller messaging, and there aren't really other good options. So specifically for FBA, it seems like Amazon really wants to handle the customer service on the FBA orders as much as possible. Yeah, that was interesting to hear your experience. So yeah, the only other thing to say here, I think, is just that the content has been optimized by Amazon. It does seem to get really good results, and it's going to be compliant with terms of service, which to me, like I said, if you're looking for a really quick way to get up and running and just make sure that you're requesting reviews and you don't really want to take the time to customize, just totally fine. This is a great way to do it and know that you're not going to violate any policies because the message is actually being sent by Amazon. And the message is also automatically translated into the buyer's preferred language, which I think is a huge plus. there are so many languages, and I think it's a really nice option.
Becky was kind enough to do a webinar where she showed some like statistics on the performance of the request to review. And I don't know if it's because it's an Amazon created thing, so they favor it, or if it's just like going for every order and it looks legit, because it does look legit. Like, I wonder if I have one on my phone that I can show. I'm sure I do.
I
But
get plenty.
it's definitely a great option. And since Amazon's kind of like cut off your knees in terms of requesting reviews in every other way whatsoever, unless you can afford Vine, which now they're charging for again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just heard that from a big brand a couple days ago. They were like,
need to
oh
update
yeah,
some
oh
articles.
yeah, they're charging again. I was like, oh good.
Okay.
When it comes to
Yeah, 'cause I think we checked-
influencers, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we had checked with some industry partners like 2 weeks ago, and they weren't charging. So that must be pretty recent.
Yeah.
I think it's a case by case basis, and it's not
Mm.
widespread, and it's not a policy that's communicated among every single person at Amazon, because why on earth would they do that? Why would they put it in a handbook for everybody to like do the same thing? Because that wouldn't make any sense at all, right? This isn't
It
going
is
to be
under
like totally
advertising.
public, right? But yeah, I'm trying to find. This is just Amazon trying to get me to buy more stuff.
Sounds like you've already bought
Everything.
tons of things that anyone could possibly want. So when it comes to influencers, I think that's going to be an interesting
You
new
can't see
chapter. That's white screen, but yeah.
So
Take a screenshot. We'll share it later.
yeah. So will you rate your experience at will you rate your transaction at Amazon.com? This is actually a feedback request.
Mm-hmm.
So this is coming through buyer seller messaging. I'll take screenshots of each kind and we'll put it with the content, because I get all of them.
Yeah.
And
We'll
that way you
send
can
out-
see how they come
And
through to consumers.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share my slide deck too.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that was my last slide.
That's all right. We figured it out when the
When it
screen
ended, yeah.
sharing ended. Yeah, and kicked
Right.
us all.
We'll also post a link in the Meetup group to the 30-day free trial to Feedback 5. I don't say this just because I used to work there. If you're not automating your review requests, you're missing out, because if you choose to do the request to review thing, even if you don't have very many orders a day, going in and clicking that request to review button when it's available is a pain, because the request to review is only available in a certain window. And I don't remember what that window is. Becky probably knows.
5 to 30 days.
5 to 30 days. So if it's 2 days after the order, you can't click that button. So you have to remember, okay, I have 3 more days before I can go click that button. So even if you don't, or if you're representing a seller or you've got access to a seller account, that clicking that button is a pain. And the Chrome plugins that they've made for it, not they, but third-party partners have made for it, don't quite work. What Feedback 5 does, if I can just blow the horn of Feedback 5, it works within the API of that particular functionality at Amazon. Like Amazon went to them and said, hey, check this out. And so they can actually say, okay, when it's time, send the request, and it's automated. You just turn it on and it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. And you can also exclude orders. You can set rules regarding repeat buyers. It's just got a lot more functionality and a lot more customization than Amazon actually offers you, but it's working right within that Amazon created, totally compliant, totally within Amazon policy template that they created. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And depending on your order volume and depending on the amount of emails that you need to send, 1 email per order. So just do the math there, and you can go to the Feedback 5 pricing page. I'm just like doing your pitch for you. Is that okay?
I was like, okay.
So just
Becky,
a number of orders.
This is your last slide, right?
Number
here.
of orders per month times 1 equals the amount of emails you need to send. So that's your pricing with Feedback 5. And it can be super, super affordable, but like, I totally think you should do it. And even though I'm at Takeometrics now, I get questions about product reviews all the time, because obviously product reviews impact your organic search, your organic rank, and that impacts your ability to advertise effectively. So it all feeds each other. It all depends on each other. And another cool thing about request a review, as Becky said, is that it also requests seller feedback. So if your ODR tanks because your seller feedback sucks, then your account gets suspended and you can't do anything. You're not making any sales. So it just makes sense to automate that, because you've got enough things to think about. And that's my pitch.
Yeah.
That it would have been when I worked there, but now I'm allowed to pitch it like that, which
No,
is
I mean,
super
that's
fun.
you're supposed to be thinking strategy and not bog yourself down with manual tasks. So if you
Yeah.
want to be a successful seller, you have to think like that.
Especially if you're managing multiple accounts.
Yeah.
Even if you're like a one brand or one account kind of person, but you've got multiple marketplaces, while the reviews might carry over, it still doesn't, like, your .com account doesn't automate review requests on other platforms. So
And it also doesn't, like, even though the reviews are shown, it doesn't impact your seller rank in that marketplace.
right. And it's not like you can log into .com and then go to a different screen and see your .ca or your .mx or your .de or your .fr or whatever stuff, you know? So turn it on for every marketplace you're in. And I think that that's that's what I would do.
Well,
And we do, go ahead.
a quick comment just on Ecom Engine, because we've worked together, talked to each other for years now, several years. I've always been happy that there's been so much emphasis, both in the Liz era and Becky's era, on compliance and avoiding trouble and problems, and not just, because other areas of the Amazon space, there is that relentless sales pitch, or buy the course, use the guide we sell, whatever it is, without that component in it. And
Right.
how many people have, like I kind of said this at the beginning, who just blindly trust. You've done your homework with it and you've steadily done it for years, but you're doing it now. Obviously tonight you've proven it. So that's one thing I like about how you guys operate, is that you pay attention to that sort of stuff, right?
Yep.
Chris hates rule breaking. I don't know if you know this about Chris, everybody, but I mean, Chris and I basically always have a Facebook Messenger window open with each other. And if somebody breaks the rules, whether it's in industry, like one of our peers, or
Lying.
if it's someone else, anybody who lies or cheats or does anything, Chris will go on a complete tirade. And I'll be like, I am in a meeting.
Yep.
I'll talk to you later. And he'll just be on and on and on. And then I'll read it all later and I'll be like, this is why I love him.
That's my passion.
He's got so much integrity. He's got so much passion. He is absolutely on the straight and narrow, but geez, can he go on? So I love you, Chris.
Because it bothers me that in the Amazon space, there isn't like somebody posts one of these things and a giant Reddit circle goes around it, and everyone from 17 different services and consultancies draws an arrow to it. That's not what happens. Things slide under the radar, and it's only after there's been a bunch of account suspensions, which is a big part of my core business, is reinstatement. It's only after all the suspensions roll through that all of a sudden everyone gets on board. So anyone like Ecom Engine, and of course, Takeometrics and other companies that care about this stuff, anyone who shouts that before it happens, that's a big thing in my book, as opposed to just waiting for the whole giant wave to come through and, sweep everyone aside. And then that's the reaction. Like, I just wish the industry had a bit more proactivity. So that's where that passion comes from, Liz.
I know, Chris. So does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any experiences they've had with reviews? Do you have clients? Do you have your own account that you've got problems on? Just go ahead, unmute yourself. Let's talk. we've got a more than a half an hour left.
So, quick question. Yes, exactly. Reviews and relevance of search. That has always been confusing to me, because I've heard both sides that so I'm asking, does it relate to where you get positioned on a page, or is it really more to convert the buyers?
Both, but it's definitely relevant to where you're placed on the page.
It is.
Well, because there are keywords in reviews. So you can't like say, hey, could you leave me a review? And by the way, make sure you use this phrase. But people tend to use the phrase associated with your keyword. So there's sort of I think it's like an organic thing happening because there's content on the page. Amazon is what the biggest retail associated search engine there is.
Yep.
So that kind of feeds it, but also in terms of your organic search, in terms of the algorithm, the relevancy and recency of your reviews counts in terms of where Amazon ranks you.
Okay.
So that kind of feeds into it too. I mean, it doesn't kind of, it totally feeds into it, like totally.
So have they changed? So, I have a bunch of old reviews, and then now with the new system where they don't have to leave a comment, are they weighting that differently than previously, or it's?
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Well, review date has more relevance for the weight of the actual, like when you see the percentage, 74% or 16%, 4-star, 5-star. And you get a 5-star review, oftentimes you don't see it change. It ends up just being the same percentage.
You mean your average rating?
Average rating, right? When you dig in underneath the 5-star, you see the breakout, and that percent. So if somebody leaves a 5-star, a lot of times that percentage doesn't break. It just that 5-star doesn't increase the percentage.
I think it depends on how many reviews you're dealing with. If you have 5 reviews, another 5-star review is going to make a big difference. If you have 5,000 reviews, it's going to take a long time for that average rating to change, just the way that the averages work out. But sorry, the first part of what you said, I wanted to comment on.
Does Amazon weight them differently?
Oh, yeah. And so that was what I was saying earlier. They don't, so far as we can tell, but Liz said for now.
Okay.
So,
well, that we know of.
That we know
too.
of, yeah.
There's that too, because reviews are this big thorny problem at Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are
Always
bots
changing.
and there are people that are looking at review requests. They're looking at the reviews that come in. There are obviously people gaming the system and getting away with it, which I talk to brands all the time that are like, look, it's not fair. I'm going to have to do something illegal. And I'm like, you can't, because if you lose your account, you're done. And you're $100 million brand. So don't do it, because Amazon won't hesitate. This is one thing that is absolutely unmovable in terms of, I mean, this is it. This is the social proof on your product. So unfortunately, Amazon hasn't quite, I keep saying that e-commerce itself was an infant until COVID happened, and now it's in its terrible twos. And Amazon is definitely like the reason that I say that, because Amazon has come a long way, obviously, but in terms of what's available for third-party sellers, what the processes are in place to support third-party sellers are still not anywhere near where they need to be. And reviews are a huge part of that, because reviews are just as important to the seller as they are to consumers, maybe even more so. I mean, I know that I talk to plenty of consumers that are like in the muggle world that I deal with that are like, what do you do for a living? You've told me like 20 times and I still don't understand it. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just leave reviews on the things you buy, please.
Right.
And, search by brand, don't search by keyword, which is totally
It's in flux.
antithetical to what I do for a living. So I guess maybe, because obviously we want you to search by keyword. or no, we want people to search by keywords. We want the keywords to work. Anyway, no, reviews are still a big problem. And I think that rating versus written review thing is still up in the air, personally.
Yeah,
That's my
I
my
think
opinion.
so too.
I wish they would be a little bit better on removing just bad reviews, like the people who leave a 1-star and think it's a 5-star, or
Mhm.
the people who are leaving a review on a totally unrelated product,
Yeah.
or, somebody who's just abusive. Like, you get some of those reviewers in there that you can look through their entire history and all they do is trash people and products,
Well,
You
and
know.
you can submit a case for that.
but they ignore you.
Yeah, but just do it again.
Yeah, let me know.
Let Chris help
Show me
you.
some examples. There's an improving series of methods that you can use to get their attention back on something they've ignored that they shouldn't ignore.
Oh, that'd be
I've
good.
heard,
Whether that's an email queue, whether it's, shouting out what you're dealing with to another team. There's recently, better options than there were maybe 12 to 18 months ago, let's say. The last year, this has become something that they care more. They always cared about it, right? But they cared enough to put some resources and energy and some solutions in at least the right neighborhood, if not exactly the right place. So
Right.
I don't know, what are you talking about on one account or a series of accounts, or how many different seller accounts that have had this problem that have reported it through a case and didn't hear back? Or
Yeah, I mean, this goes all the way back to one of the Boost conferences that I went to. This topic was brought up, and the executive in charge was like, "We don't touch reviews because it violates the customer trust."
right.
Was that the one in New Orleans, Gwen?
Yes,
It
yeah,
was so hot.
That was the hot one. I
Yeah,
went
It
there
was
for
so
that. Yeah.
hot there.
that one was
The
brutal.
airplane hangar with no AC.
Right? Yeah, everybody was melting.
Yep.
I
So
wore a dark blue shirt. That was a big mistake.
right.
Show me some examples. I can make some suggestions.
I will. Yeah.
And we'll share what we can share, by the way, not pairing off and having a private conversation. Obviously nothing confidential and private, but we can share what we've discussed afterwards as well.
Who's on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, I love.
Is everybody on
I
LinkedIn?
use. Yeah.
Sam, Agnes, Bob, are you guys on LinkedIn? Y'all. I shouldn't say guys or gals or whatever. Chris, I think you should start a LinkedIn group.
For the meetup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should have said that to you after this was over, and I apologize.
No, I mean, we're open to anything. We're doing virtual. We have people who are going to attend the meetup now that are from other parts of the country that wouldn't have come to Boston for a meetup. So I mean,
Maybe they'll come to Boston when the world opens up.
They should.
And the flights will be cheap.
It's a beautiful
and
day out today.
We can all go to who's close to Boston in this group?
Who's in the vicinity? Yeah.
Will, Jeff, Gwen, you're a little north, right?
Yeah.
Bob's close. Hey, Bob. Bob's close to Boston.
How far north are you, Gwen? Are you in Canada?
Vermont, 3 hours.
Nice.
Oh, Gwen, you're in Vermont. We're in Vermont.
I am in
Oh, you
Rutland.
don't have. I mean, if it's confidential.
My address
Rutland.
is.
I'm in,
Yeah.
You're
This is a Google
Skillington.
Maps.
Yeah. I'm in Williston.
nice.
Chris, related to the question that Gwen just brought up, I saw something interesting in a seller forum earlier this week, and someone was suggesting there was a problem that someone had said, there's this person that's leaving all these 1-star reviews, and someone suggested reporting the seller and not, or the person leaving the
reviewer.
reviews. Yeah. And not saying they left it on my account, or basically they were like, as few details as you can provide.
Right.
If you just say this person looks shady, check it out, you're more likely to get results.
That's one of the
find that to be
things. Yes, because that's one of the things that didn't used to amount to anything that now does.
true?
And I think Gwen mentioned that a minute ago, right? She looked and there was just abuse, a steady stream of attacks.
Yeah. Like one of the ones I remember on a recent one was the woman even bought blow pops and she's like, this isn't soft gum. I'm like, who in the world would think a blow pop has soft gum?
Yeah.
Were you ever 7? Because you know that's not soft gum.
Yeah.
That's when you got your first filling. Because of blow pops. It was because of blow pops.
We have reported what I've been presented with some clients who need to report somebody where every single seller on selling that product, top seller, 5, 6, 7 different sellers get reported, and mysteriously one isn't. One top seller is the only one who didn't get the horrible, terrible review.
What could have caused that?
So it's kind of murky whether or not you can accuse that person of being behind all those terrible reviews. That's another story. In this case, you can say, look at this reviewer. Yeah, you can report reviewers more easily, and we've seen more results and heard more stories where the reviewer disappears, which is what you want to happen when the entire purpose they're there is to bash every product except for one on that page.
That's exactly why this is such a thorny problem, because reviews are so important to Amazon's success.
Yeah.
I have a question about reviews and how Amazon shows them on a product detail page. I have a top 10 item, has reviews are like a 4.8. But when you look at the reviews on the detail page, the first 3 are 1-star reviews from 2017.
How many upvotes do they have?
That's what I was just gonna say. Do they have a lot of upvotes? Helpful votes?
The
No,
thumbs up and the thumbs down.
Not that's out of control. So I don't understand how Amazon's ranking the reviews.
It's also the recency of the upvote or the downvote too.
Okay.
That factors in. So if somebody recently upvoted a negative review from 2017, it's gonna rise to the top.
Okay.
And unfortunately, and Becky, tell me if you've heard differently from this, because I'm working with a great big seller right now that is like, I've got an upvote, downvote problem. And I'm like, who doesn't? But he talked to somebody at Amazon, and Amazon said, yeah, we have no way of knowing who's upvoting, who's downvoting, and when they're doing it. And I'm like, I call malarkey on that, folks, because you have access to your data. It's just they haven't gotten to it yet. But I think that that's going to become such an issue that Amazon's going to have to crack down. And I hope they just get rid of upvotes and downvotes personally, because I don't give a crap about upvotes and downvotes when I'm shopping. And I think it's hurting really good sellers really bad, actually.
Well, it sounds to me like I should go look at my competitors and, upvoting one-star reviews on their entire product line.
Well, don't go upvote just in case they crack down tomorrow. Will, plus that's not it. Don't fight black hat bad actor behavior with black hat bad actor behavior.
Blackfire with Blackfire. The upvote tool can't be. Amazon has said they can't delete or edit or adjust the upvotes.
Well, they also told my brand that I was working with that they can't possibly know who did it, and I'm like,
well,
there's a not wanting to know and there's a not knowing. Those are different things.
Is that department not here today? I mean,
we actually recently wrote content on this, and I had asked Chris, hey, what do you recommend beyond opening a case? And he was like, well, opening a case isn't going to do anything, but at least you can say you did it and then escalate.
So
if you're planning to do more, open a case. If you're only planning to open a case, no, take a nap.
But we'll get more 5-star reviews.
Yeah, most of them are. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah, it's strange that your average rating is so high, and
they're rising to the top on the product detail page because somebody keeps upvoting those negative reviews to make that happen, to tank his listing. And that ticks me off.
Do you find even when there's no
as well it should.
Yeah, right.
Do you guys find even when there's no upvotes or downvotes, Amazon does float the negative reviews to the top? Because that's what I tend to see. Yeah.
I think there is a quality score to the buyers. So if the buyer has a higher quality score, you might pop up to the top. And this happens because even the comments they left, some of them, if it's suspicious, the system will automatically suppress them. So I guess that's all correlated. I understand.
Reviews are a mess.
They'll eventually figure some of it out. But
I think they have to. I
over
totally think
time,
they have to.
it takes forever to figure it all out. They have to take it one piece at a time. So over years, they address pieces of it eventually. But
Well, you think about when they got rid of incentivized reviews in 2016, October 2016. Remember, Becky? Review
I
Gate.
remember
October
very
3rd,
well.
yes.
Review Gate.
October 3rd, 2016.
Yeah, that October 3rd,
Yes.
2016.
I do remember,
Anniversary in all of our minds.
that, actually.
When you think about it, if you're a shopper on Amazon and you look at the reviews and every single one of them says, I received this item for free or for a discount and in return for my honest review, how much confidence are you going to have in that product? It was the right thing to do, but it was painful for the whole industry. But it was the right thing to do. At the end of the day, the reviews have to be honest. They have to be on the up and up. They have to properly reflect the quality of the product, the delight that people find in the product, because you can't pick it up on a shelf at Target or Walmart and hold it in your hand and smell it and see what color it is and all that stuff. I mean, that's what reviews are for. You have to think like Amazon does, which is customer first. Unfortunately, people have been gaming reviews since there were reviews. So there's a battle that you have to fight. And people like Becky and people like Chris and people like me, even though I don't do that anymore, I'm not involved with that anymore, but like we still help you fight that battle because it sucks. It sucks that it's so important. It sucks that it hurts your ranking or helps your ranking so much. It's terrible that it has such an impact, but you have to do the best you can while Amazon's figuring it out. Agnes says, speaking of reviews, I have an account suspended by Amazon and they told me I was manipulating the reviews or ranking, which I did not. I used the early reviewer program to gain reviews. This is the third party that I used to do the giveaways for launching, but I'm not sure if they are asking reviews from their clients. I'm basically confused. Agnes, you need to get it. I know it's late for you. Agnes is in the UK, so it's like midnight, right?
That's late.
Yeah, it's late. It's late for you, but get in touch with Chris because that's exactly what
I
he
think
does.
Agnes and I have an email thread going.
Okay.
You can't expect a ton of fairness in that. You know, some people abuse it for hundreds or thousands of reviews and others only get 3 or 4 reviews out of it. But
well, and if
breaking
you're
the
doing
rule-
anything else at the same time,
Yeah.
Amazon might get confused. So if
Yeah.
you were requesting reviews via buyer seller messaging and you might have had the word positive somewhere in your email having nothing to do with asking for a positive review, but a little bot flagged it, anything that you might have been doing in conjunction with the early reviewer program might have like confused Amazon and therefore suspended your account. So yeah, get Chris to. The last review I had was last December and they suspended you in March when you relaunched your product. That's super.
Oh, the last review at all. Okay.
Was that the last review at all, or was that the last review from the early reviewer program? From early reviewer, but you've gotten reviews since then organically or through a third party? Third party,
yeah.
What third party are you
using? It's a small number of reviews that was at issue. Yeah.
Seller tools.
This brings me to another point similar to what I said earlier, is sometimes Amazon investigators, sleuths are tracking the service you're using, not so much you, but they're, the sharks that Amazon deploys to catch this stuff are circling the service. And if you show up or pop up anywhere connected to that service, that's how they found you. But they consider you sort of guilty until proven innocent just by the fact that you're associated with a service that they're trying to push off a cliff.
Is that third party in the Amazon App Store, Agnes?
That's what I was gonna say.
No, always use somebody that's in the App Store.
Definitely use the App Store.
because Amazon is cracking down, looking. I'm sorry it was endorsed by Masterclass, but you absolutely, like, rule number one, if you're going to use a third-party tool on an Amazon account, make sure they're in the Amazon App Store. Do not use a tool that's not in the App Store because they're not actually authorized to use Amazon's API. They
And
might have gotten it, but really they're not vetted by Amazon, and just don't do it.
and endorsements typically involve financial relationships between, I know I've said this like 4 times tonight, but how many times have I seen, well, this person said that this was TOS compliant, or this was, within the policy guidelines. And my next question is always, is the person who said that, A, getting a kickback for the recommendation? B, is that person a policy expert at
I say
Amazon?
I'm 24 years old and I can play the violin with my feet, but it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
I've never seen you play any violins, so
I can't play the
I have
violin at
no
all,
idea if you
especially
can,
not with my feet.
not with your feet.
I'm just
that
saying,
would
people
be-
can say anything, but always use
Yeah.
a third-party tool for an Amazon account that's in the App Store. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's a good tool, if it's not in the App Store, Amazon is looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
It's an ongoing problem with the courses.
well, and some of the courses will tell you only go with tools that are in the App Store. Some of the courses are awesome.
Mhm.
They like a tool. They've got a friend that made a tool. It's not in the App Store yet. But
Mhm.
just because it's not in the App Store doesn't mean it's wrong, right? But because it's not in the App Store yet, it's under scrutiny. So to be safe with your account, even if a masterclass recommends it, I would go back at that masterclass and say, look, you recommended this. They're not in the App Store yet. Am I getting, and they're going to tell you, no, I'm not getting targeted. You're not getting targeted because you're using that tool. But I would
Right.
look at forums, look at Facebook groups, see if other people that are using the same tool that you are experiencing the same thing you are. And in that case, then you need to kind of put some of the onus back on the tool to help fight for your account.
Yeah.
I think, Chris, do you think so?
And yeah, and like I said, we've had kind of a thread this week. Link me to the
gosh,
link.
they wrote a POA for her. No, yeah, always.
Oh, I
get
didn't.
Chris
I
to write your
didn't. I
POA
may
too.
not have known that they were the ones who did
Yeah.
the POA,
No,
but
Chris will sort you out.
we haven't
Agnes,
gotten to
don't
that
worry.
point yet. We're still putting that piece together, but denied 4 times obviously is a situation where you need to proceed very carefully. I will follow up with Agnes. Any other questions before we're getting kind of near the end here? Was there anyone else who, I don't see anything else in the chat, so you can just unmute yourself or.
Let's put a link in the chat to Chris, can you do that? You can't get into Facebook Messenger, or Becky, can you put in that special link that gets everybody
Yeah.
a 30-day free trial for Feedback 5? Because why not try it? It's free for 30 days and see if it increases the amount of ratings and reviews you're getting. I mean, incidentally,
We do a lot beyond
ahead.
that. We are in 17 marketplaces. We just rolled out Poland. We support sellers in over 100 countries, and we have alerting features. Obviously you want to get more reviews, but we also have a lot to make the most of the reviews that you're getting, see what's actually happening, see the impact of your requests with the analytics. So it's definitely worth checking out. We won't be offended if you cancel.
It's super cool. Yeah. So that's Chris's special link. It gives you 30 days instead of a 14-day free trial. Sorry, I'm like doing all your selling for you. And I should be talking about Takeometrics, because honestly, if you've got your reviews where you need to be, or even if you don't, like if
Right.
you're having trouble with your organic ranking and you need some help with advertising, I work for Takeometrics now. I'm finally getting advertising. I'm getting how powerful it can be. And if you want help with that, then I'm going to put my email address here, because I don't want you to just because the self-serve tool is really not expensive at all. Like my impression of Takeometrics at first was like, geez, this is expensive, but it's not. It's kind of scaled to your business, but there's a self-serve tool that's only $59.99 a month. And I've got a guy that will show you how to use it. I've got a couple people that will show you how to use it, but
Well, expensive is also relative. I mean, just to make that point, because kind of like the same conversation as well, if you do everything yourself and you don't use any automation, you're wasting time you could be spending on strategy or other parts of your business.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing to me.
Right. But
You know,
like I'm gearing up for the Prosper Show. I don't know if anybody's planning to go to the Prosper Show. I think that we're going to put in the Meetup group a coupon code if you decide you want to go. It is so educational. Like, even if you're not a great big brand, even if, I mean, like, no matter where you are in your selling journey, it's a great experience because there are so many people there. There are so many thought leaders there. This is going to be an extra special one just because there's been a lot of thought put into the agenda. There's been a lot of thought put into like how the actual flow is going to be, because we're all still going to be safe and socially distant, except for when we do the after party where I've got to hug all of my people. So sorry, get vaccinated because I'm hugging you. It's going to be rad though. It's going to be really good. So Chris, let's get a coupon code
we
together
will, yeah,
for Prosper
for
ticket.
Prosper, 14, 15, 16 July.
And if you need help and advice on an advertising strategy for you or one of your clients, email me and I will hook you up. Because I'm seeing some really cool things. I've been kind of like diving into different accounts and different brands and like taking a look at what can be done with just the right keyword strategy, or just a really rad, sponsored brand campaign or a sponsored product campaign. And DSP is so cool. There's just a lot that I didn't know when I came to work for Takeometrics, and now I know. So just call me, email me, we'll have a call, we'll just get on, we'll take a look, we'll figure out what your budget is, and we'll see what we can do for you. Gwen, that's true. If someone can't afford Takeometrics on their own, they can hire an agency that can do it for them, because Gwen is one of those agencies and she rocks. Gwen takes such good care of her brands. So that's enough salesy crap.
So there will be a follow-up. We've got screenshots from your phone, Liz, that we want to share with people.
Not those screenshots. I'm kidding. It's late. It's been a long day. I had a webinar at 10 this morning.
It's been a long week. And I want to be respectful of Becky's time too. I don't want to take too much of your evening away.
Can I ask one question of the group? Just because there was kind of, according to Marketplace Pulse today, they're saying that the customer data is being completely suppressed on the business reports, the FBA customer report, which I ran one today and it was not suppressed, but it only runs it through yesterday's data. So basically they're saying as of tomorrow, all FBA orders are going to have no address and no name.
Do you have a link to that you can share?
Yeah, sure.
Or if you don't have it handy, you can email it to me later, but
that
I
seems
usually
pretty strict.
yeah. Usually day after the meetup, sometimes evening of the meetup, but it won't happen tonight. I post a little follow-up thanking people for coming and saying, hey, we're going to share this, we're going to share that. So
incidentally, like Becky, I don't know if you've heard of this, but Norm said that to me on Tuesday, and I was like, what's it going to do to review requests? But I can envision a world where buyer seller messaging, because they don't put the first name in the email anymore, right? Or do they?
I would have to.
They don't.
I don't.
Yeah, they don't. So if you use buyer seller messaging, it doesn't populate the first name anymore. So you don't actually have to know who you're sending it to. All you have to know is the order number.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Amazon can know inside Amazon what the person's name is, but you don't have to know what the person's name is. It sucks because we really, really want to know that contact information.
Interpersonal relationships, but it gets back to whose customer is it, yours or Amazon's, right? They're always going to rely on that answer. Like, you don't need to know their name. You don't need to, and of course, logically, you can come up with many reasons why you'd like to know that person's name. But that's just the trend. The direction we're going is Amazon taking their customer back, quote unquote, and defending their customer against, some people just kind of ruined it for other people. That's the nature of the game, unfortunately.
Your FBM people
It's-
will still know their names when.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the same article and it was talking about demographic information and how they're changing some things for brand registered sellers and opening up some new features. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, the removing the buyer name is, I don't know, it's not as personal, but it's also not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there have been enough bad actors
Yeah.
that it's just not all that surprising, is it?
No.
I recently had a conversation with someone who has a service who on their website, it says something about handling negative reviews. And I said, well, what are you doing now that review commenting has gone away? And then he started telling me how they go look at the report and see the buyer. They try to figure out the buyer's name and try to figure out their email address. And I was just like, you're the reason that policies change.
Yeah.
There's always someone trying to get around whatever Amazon is trying to keep people from doing.
Well, and I've seen on LinkedIn, I've seen on people's websites, there's a lot of real brazen advertising for all somebody at Amazon has to do is look at that page. It takes 2 seconds to go to a LinkedIn profile, a website, and typically right there on the homepage or on the LinkedIn profile, wherever you are, there's a bulleted list right in the image of like 4, 5, 6 things that either can't be reasonably accomplished and they're just saying that they've got a workaround that doesn't actually exist, or it's a series of things that would, make somebody at Amazon's eyes pop out of their head. So it's not hard to find this. I mean, they weren't looking for it before. I know they weren't until more recently, but now that they are, it's not hard to find this stuff. And
Also,
And they'll find it.
right.
well, I mean,
Right.
especially if somebody's pointing an arrow at it. I mean, then they can really find it,
One
So-
thing I wanted to ask is what topics do you guys want to see at the meetup? Like, post that in the meetup, or if you've got one right now that you want to tell us.
I've got I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to be promoting next
I'm
month.
sorry, I didn't mean to steal
all
your
right.
thunder, Chris.
Yeah. Becky, so Becky, thank you for joining us. Next
Sure.
month,
You don't
we're
have to
having,
go anywhere though.
you don't have to run off yet.
I'm just gonna keep interrupting you, Chris.
Just
I'm
a quick,
gonna, keep
yeah,
doing
May,
that.
it looks like May 13th, which I believe is a Thursday. I'll confirm this, but I am going to say, put out a question for who do you want for speakers or what topics do you want us to cover? The next one we've got coming up is Gatita, Yoni at Gatita for May 13th. But we don't know how many
I heart Yoni.
virtuals, well, we don't know how many virtuals of these we're going to do versus in person. And maybe at some point we'll do a little bit of both. So we don't necessarily have to just look at people in the Northeast. And Liz flew up here from Virginia, of course. So 2 years ago.
And I'd do it again.
Yes.
What Yoni does, just as a teaser for next month,
Next
is
month.
he finds your FBA reimbursement. So
Mhm.
he's got software plus service. So it does it within Amazon policy, but any reimbursements you might be owed, basically his thing is you can be leaving tens of $1,000s on the table, and they've
Right.
recovered billions of dollars of
Right.
money from Amazon for Amazon sellers. So
They
it's
do
definitely
free
worth
audits. Yeah.
joining, because there's money that Amazon owes you that you likely don't know about. So
Like lost in compensation for lost and stranded inventory, which is what I was going to say, but then I knew Liz would sales pitch, so I stopped talking.
I'm not a salesperson either, I promise. I'm not.
You are
I just, like,
today.
but I believe in what Becky does and what Ecom Engine does. I believe in what Yoni does. It's not hard to sell my friends when my friends rock. And I believe in what you do too, Chris. But
Yeah, well, people come to us constantly asking us about other services and opinions about other consultants or companies, and they value our opinions on it for a reason. We go through this over and over and over all the time.
well, that's why we have this little community, right? Is so that we
is.
know we know that we can tell you, hey, use this tool, not that one. Hey,
Yeah.
use this person, not that one. Not because we're nepotistic or cliquey, because we know what can get you in hot water with Amazon and
Right.
what can't.
Well, there's enough of the clicky stuff already.
Agnes asks,
Yeah.
Chris, can we always do a virtual? I'm getting ahead of Agnes's question. Agnes says, can
Well, I
we
wanted to
invite our
just
friends to
refer-
join here?
I just wanted to refer people to Becky's email address, which is down in the chat. If you want to reach out to her by email.
Trowbridge at ecommention.com.
Yes.
But Chris, we have a question. Agnes asked, can we invite our friends to join here? Agnes is in the UK. Can we always have a virtual component of this?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure we can. I haven't been.
I can
I-
help sort that out since
You
I'm
can
the
help me sort
co-host.
that out. I've always, up until COVID, I always did in-person events through the Meetup. I did other conferences and events.
But
that
we can have a
weren't through
virtual,
the Meetup.
we can have a Zoom
Yeah.
component. So people who can't make it,
Yeah,
I'm
and
sick, I just had a
honestly,
baby.
And honestly, it was really kind of the
This
Meetup
half of my head is
tools.
on fire.
It was the Meetup tools that were a little limiting. I mean, that was one reason why I didn't totally, it's not that intuitive to use the Meetup stuff, but we can do that and work that out. We're using Zoom right now, so obviously we're integrating other things with the Meetup. So
yes,
the answer
Agnes,
is yes.
invite your friends. Tell the world.
Yes.
Or fly over,
Yes.
because Chris runs
Yeah.
a wonderful in-person event.
Thank you.
Imagine.
He does. The food is always good.
That's great.
The food's
yeah,
sometimes good,
Will, were
And
you there?
And there's wine.
but there's alcohol. So, and if you don't drink alcohol, there's other things as well. But
Oh,
Um,
they're still in lockdown where Agnes is.
right.
We're
No.
dumb over here, Agnes.
You have to,
Just-
when you're doing virtual, you have to bring your own wine, but we're definitely up for making this kind of hybrid Zoom. And I've done it with other events like the conference that I put together, Seller Velocity. I've done hybrid, virtual, and in person. So
We need to do one of those.
we are
Chris.
doing one of those, remember?
Yes.
We just haven't announced it yet.
Yes,
So
we are. doing
stop
one of those.
recording.
Becky
We're going to
needs
sort
come
out
too.
an event. Yeah. As vaccinations allow, we will do a hybrid virtual and in
We'll
person
get the whole band together.
event
It'll be
in the
great.
fall. That's probably for the fall, but we'll try to do it in person. I'm going to look into that Seaport Hotel rooftop for maybe doing like a group outside gathering this summer.
I'll
That's
be
my next
there.
plan.
But listen, all of you, thank you for joining. And if you've got ideas, you've got pain points, you've got things that you want to hear about, we've got resources for those. So post that in the Meetup group. I'd like to learn about blah. Email
Mhm.
Chris at ecommercechris.com. Email me, lDowning@takeametrics.com, which is like really hard, but it's better than my last name. But or I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's hang out there. But you can just post in the Meetup group anything that you want to know about. We will find a speaker. Becky, you rock so much. And I miss you and I wish I could hug you. I wish we were like up there now and then we were going to go get some food, some chowder.
We'll
Soon.
just have
Powder
to
up
show up
there,
in
right?
Boston
Soon.
together one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll
Yep.
we'll just
Lobster
crash in
tails.
at Cambridge and we'll just stay at Chris's.
We'll do the whole thing. Lobster tails, chowder, find some baked beans for you. We'll give you the whole Boston full-on experience. Yep. Yep.
Thank
you
you.
so much, Becky.
Thank you,
Thanks everybody for
everybody.
joining.
Yeah, thanks
Um,
everyone.
Not hard to message through the Meetup platform, and you're probably also members of the Facebook group, Amazon Seller First Class. You can message me there too. So thanks, guys.
See you
Be
next time.
safe. See you next time.
Thank you all. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sure.
Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.